Hey everyone, it's Desiree. I am here with the Tonic Studios number 18 monthly craft kit. I know, it's been a while since I've shown one of these, but here is number 18. So I made 3 cards from this kit and kept them simple. Sometimes I think when we see these dies, we think we've got to be intricate and everything else. Let the die do the work. So these are the contents that were in the kit. You get this stamp set with some beautiful sentiments in some great fonts. You get your die set, and there's 7 dies. These are very versatile when it comes to this. Number 18 craft kit is actually called Dream in Color, and one of the things with this Dream in Color are new colors that Tonic is coming out when it comes to some of their products, such as their glitter, their confetti drops, and so forth. So the cardstock that we get is a weave textured in apricot orange, a mirror card, holo waves, pearlescence, and other glitter cards as well. This is what your glitter looks like, and that is called purple plasma. You also get a small pot of some embossing powder called Ocean Sparkle, and that is what that looks like. It's really bright, very pretty, and it's got a sense of glitter in it as well. You get 2 samples of their drops. You get a mini jewel, which is new, called Honeysuckle, and a mini crystal, which is also new, called Calming Aqua. I really like the aqua color. Very versatile. It's close to a pool color, but not. You get this paper pad, and again, it is showing the colors that are in the Dream in Color line that will be coming out, and it is available at this time. One of the other things that is in the kit, and I immediately fell in love with, this is a new type of drop they have come out with called Dream Drops. There is a pearl type. It's not glitter, it's not a shimmer. I mean, it is definitely a pearl. This one is called Supernova. It is basically my favorite, and there are many other colors available. So let's get started. So I've already done all of the die cutting because it does take some time to do this. So what I did was I took 2 pieces of white cardstock and I cut out 2 panels. Now these are actually 6 inches wide because my card base is going to be 6 by 5. So that's actually cut 6 by 10, scored at the 5-inch mark. I then, after I cut these out, these were actually cut 6 by 3 inches. Put the die towards the top, and then I scored it at 3/4 so that I have this lip towards the bottom, and this is going to wrap around my piece of cardstock. So I am using some double-sided tape to adhere this to the back of the panel that I've cut. You could cut a solid piece and put your die on each end. I just found this to be easier. Now my cardstock panel that I'm wrapping around was cut 6 inches by 4 7/8. And there's a reason for that. When it comes to that panel, I did not want it to have it go right up to the 5-inch mark. When you have these 2 sides, and you can see how I'm placing them, I'm setting them down, I'm keeping it in my hand, and I'm just angling that cardstock in and then pressing down. If you want these to be flatter, you can use your paper creaser to fold along that, and then that will keep them down as well. Again, the card base is 5 by 6, cut 6 by 10, scored at the 5, and you can see that panel is going to cover that completely. So when it comes to these doors, that's what I chose to do with this, is to create these door panels because my sentiment's going to sit inside. You want to make sure that you keep in mind with these panels that come down, the pieces that are inside of them, from my cardstock to the 2 next layers that I'm going to create, you want to cut them a little bit shorter and shorter. So you're almost going to have this pyramid that's coming in. It's almost as if when we layer our cardstock, you know, we'll cut something 2 by 2, and then if we want something on that, if it's a piece of pattern paper, we're going to cut it 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 so that we have that 1/8 of an inch border around it. Same thing, the next layer would be 1 1/2, and so forth. You kind of want to do the same thing on this, because if we keep everything equal along the sides, those door flaps are not going to come down flat. They're not going to be able to bend in, and it's going to cause a crease in the side. I hope I'm making sense on this. I'm not quite sure. But you'll see. So the first thing that I want to stamp is the sentiment. And the sentiment that I'm going to use is the thank you. This is one of my favorite out of the choices that they give you. I just like the way that it's written. I like the way that it trails. I like the skinniness of it. This is just my favorite font from these. So when it comes to that panel, excuse me, I've cut that panel to be 1 1/4 inch wide, and it's actually cut to be just under 4 7/8. So it's a little bit shorter. Okay, so remember, I made an error on the blue panel. It's just under 5 inches. It's a scant 5 inch, so it's not quite 5 inches. That sentiment is close to a scant 4 7/8, so it's just under 4 7/8. It's close to 4 3/4, but not yet. Same thing with the pattern paper or the textured paper that I used, which is a specialty paper, and that is, I believe that is seashell sand. Beautiful texture on that, and I'm going to prop my sentiment right in the center of that because I want that to be on the top and the bottom. So this is even. So when I put this, because I'm adding that dimension of the double-sided foam tape, again, that's why you want this shorter than the panel you're setting it on. So you're going to see a very thin border of your cardstock on each side. I am using my liquid adhesive to adhere down this panel onto my cardstock because of all the texture of the specialty paper. So you can see that thin line on each side. And now as I push those in, they go down comfortably. It's like on an angle for it. It's not this 90-degree height that it's got to go around. I grabbed some of my ribbon from my stash that I thought would match perfectly, and I am doubling it on each side so that I don't have to glue, I don't have to adhere. I can just wrap it around that bar that's sitting on that fence, and I'm just going to tie a bow to close this. And that is our card. You could have fun and add some Nuvo drops all the way around that frame to accent it. Think what you could do with that frame if you did that in watercolor, and use, whether it's your watercolors or your distress inks or your oxides to do a blending. You could have a beautiful blend coming across that. Do all of your coloring first before you die cut, because of the fine details that are in that. So very vincible and very simple. Very simple. So for card number 2, you have these 2 dies, and I'll be honest, it took me a while to figure this out, but if you set them next to each other, it creates an elongated banner. I didn't know that. It took me a while. So you could, I first tried to tape them together. Yeah, wasn't going to work. So I decided to actually die cut in 4/4. You can't, these are easy to line up. They do create a continuous design, which I think is great, or you could just use the one. So again, 2 simple dies and you can get many looks. Now the problem with this is I forgot to, at some point hit record. So there's something that we're missing, and you'll see that when we get to it. So you can see if I just take this die, all I have to do is line it up and let it cross over a little bit. I would suggest pushing it in just a little bit more. Line up that die with the edge of the heart, and it's going to be perfectly lined up. I'm close with this. I could have gotten just a little bit closer, but you can see just by sitting them next to each other, it works perfectly. I'm going to do that to the top as well. Now you could just do it to the bottom, but I wanted this panel to go across the top. I am flipping it so that the heart that you can see in the center is in the center of the card. So you can see that I've already stamped the sentiment, totally missed that, and we're just going to heat set that. So yeah, totally forgot to hit the record on the phone. Okay, it happens. So I chose to use my Nouveau, or my Tonic, my Nouveau gold embossing powder, and we're going to set this in place. I'm not going to prop it up. I'm just going to use my liquid adhesive. This is my art glitter glue, and I'm going to set this down on my card panel, or my card base, I should say, that measures 4 by 6. So that's going to be cut 6 by 8, scored at the 4-inch mark. Again, the beauty of this and what we're creating here, you can create a different size card. You don't have to use the traditional size or what your traditional size is. Mine's a standard A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it's a top folding card usually. These allow you to make different sizes. I am using my new favorite drops, which again are these dream drops. They have this iridescent pearl on top of the color that they are. The colors that they come in are very soft. There's pinks, there's lilacs, there's pale blues, just very pale colors. And yes, there is an ivory or a white, so you can have your own pearl drops on your projects. And that is that card. Very simple, but great texture and designs going across. For the last card, I just wanted to make a shaker. So of course, when you use these, you can hear me shaking this in the background because I love doing that. Your card is going to be a little bit bigger. Now this panel that I'm working on right now was cut 4 by 7. Now the card base that I use was cut actually 5 by 8. So again, that was cut 8 by 10 and scored at the 5-inch mark. So this is going to be a pretty big card. And I'll link to a video so that you can make your own envelopes to match that. Thank goodness for Lindsay. She taught me how to do that. So you can, just because you're making a different size doesn't mean you can't have an envelope to go with it. So I used the one straight piece and I used the dotted along the top, make sure they were in place. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to use my Gina K inks in charcoal brown. That seems to be my favorite color. Now know that this cardstock, when it comes to the solid, there is a texture to it. It's a weave texture. So you do have to stamp a couple times to make sure. It's almost like stamping on watercolor paper. You want to make sure that you stamp a couple times. So a stamp positioner is good for this. It's not necessary. You can do this with an acrylic block. Just make sure you have it inked well, your stamp, and make sure you apply the pressure down across the stamp sitting on your ink block. Now, because this is texture, also the ink will bleed, and that's what I liked. It will go into the crevices, so after it dries, it's pretty cool looking. I'm going to start creating the shaker panel now. So on the other side, I'm setting my liquid glue, and I grabbed a piece of acetate. Now this is from packaging that I save when I get stuff, and it's the plastic packaging. If it's big enough and I can cut it down, I cut it up and I put it in a box, and I just grab from there. I like to use my liquid glue setting that acetate panel down. You can use a double-sided tape or a tape runner, and then I'm going to come in now with my double-sided foam tape, and I have doubled this, and I'm just going to cut my pieces down and set them in place. Once they are all placed down, and while this is now something that I do with a shaker card, I like to create it as a panel, which I usually do with all of my cards, is work on a panel. But while the adhesive, which is dangerous, trust me, but I do like to keep the adhesive on as I fill up the shaker area with either my sequins or the confetti. I am using the confetti that comes in the kit, called Rainbow Quartz Triangles. They are absolutely beautiful. You want to carefully remove the backing. Know that it can get caught sometimes. Now on this one, the confetti did not fly. On other cards, absolutely. Yes. So you want to be careful, but I like to then take another piece of paper that's going to back that. And what I actually used is one of the texture specialty papers as the backing so that that would come through as well. This way I can trim that down in the back, and then I can glue this entire panel onto my card base if I'm looking to have it straight in the center, or anything like that. Now you can see that I have a little tiny blemish there off on the side when I was stamping. I wasn't keeping an eye on the ink. When I was inking my sentiment, I didn't realize that I was getting it on the lip of my stamp positioner, so I got ink there. Not a problem. We'll cover it. Yeah. We had some errors on this, but easy fixes. It's not a problem. So, see, I just pointed that out because really I'm just seeing that now when I was doing this. So I first came up with, okay, grab my glue pen and my ruler, and I'm just going to put a thin line of glue here. Because of the thin line, wasn't quite sure if I covered up that line. I was creating all kinds of awesomeness going on here. So I grabbed my Nuvo glue pen that has a wider nib onto it. It actually came in one of their previous kits. So now I'm still using the ruler, and I'm going down. I shouldn't have used the ruler. I changed my mind. I like, again, edgy, not straight lines. Sometimes I like them to be straight lines. This one I didn't want it to, so I just went over the edge and just squiggled along it. I'm going to use the Purple Haze or Purple Plasma Pure Sheen glitter, and I'm just going to put that down on the edge. I am going to be careful that I don't tilt it the other way so that it gets caught within the fine detail of the die cut. I'm going to come in with my brush, and it's a dry brush. I only use this for cleaning out glitter when I do use the glitter this way, or my embossing powder. So that just always sits next to me. And you can see I've got these two great panels, these stripes coming down the side filled with the glitter, and that will dry. Now, when you do it that way, when you put glitter on like that, yes, glitter will come off. You can rub it, and it will then go down into that. But it's not as if you make a glitter panel. When we varnish it in, it's not the same effect. It's not as strong. I first went in, here's the next error, or boo-boo, that we got to fix here, but that's okay. These are happy accidents. They help you to see. So I really like the aqua. So on these branches that are coming off, I figured, you know what? I'll use the aqua, and I'll use the honeysuckle. Forgetting that the honeysuckle, they are clear. They are transparent. They have, as I drop my ruler, they have a hint of color when it comes to that. Yes, while I'm doing my voiceovers, my hands are moving. Yeah, it's the Italian in me. So, but what also happens is, because of the ink that I used, it's a water-based ink. The Nuvo drops, if it is a water-based ink, will pick up that ink and pull it into the color. I didn't want that to happen, and I really like the look of the aqua drops that came in. So I wanted to remove, so I used my craft knife very carefully. I do not recommend you or encourage you to do that. But I removed them, and then I just filled in with the aqua. Now again, remember what I said, the drops, if it is a water-based ink, will pull up the color of the ink, even the aqua. You will see it. I'm not sure if it'll come up in the pictures, but the aqua drops did change and actually look like marble now because they pulled up the brown. I put the aqua drops also along the die cut as well, and you can then, in the photos, you'll really see the difference in the colors. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I gave you some tips on what to remember when you're putting your cards together. These are the projects and, of course, the close-ups of the projects that we did made. All of the links, whether it's to the kit, if you're interested in subscribing, you can subscribe through the US, and I'll also show the UK, and there are other links down below. And then, of course, the products that I used. You are able to buy the products individually that I used, except for the dies in the stamp set. They are exclusive to the kit. But I would suggest connecting in with their newsletter. Sometimes they do what's called opening the vault, and sometimes those stamps and dies are put into those segments where they will sell them. Not guaranteed all the time, but sometimes. If anybody has any questions, leave those down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. But I also want to thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe, hit the thumbs up to like the video, and tune in for more. Here are a few other videos using the Tonic Studios kit, and I will also show you the envelope, how to make your own as well, that you can click on and view. Take care, everyone, and always remember, be creative.